baseline changes so quickly. So it's not that. It's two things. And I was actually thinking about earlier. I was like, where I am right now, where I have, depending on the day, my investment, stuff like that, 10 to $15 million, after tax in my investment portfolio. That's not like portfolio worth or whatever. Like that's if I need to liquidate everything, I could have that next week. That's a really scary place to be. That's where you realize you really have no money. Because when you make $1 million, when you make your first million, you think you're really rich, and you're not. When you make 10 million, you realize you're in this weird in between. Like at $100 million, really that's where you're like, I'm sorted for the rest of my life. And I know, look, for some people, they would hear 10 million and like, oh, cool, I can live off 800, put that into investments and live off, $1 million a year. It is what it is. Easy. But like, for me, like 10 is just such a funny number. Like, I don't think you're really wealthy yet. $1 million is really like you think you're rich, but you're not. I think 10 is like you're just on the cusp, but you're still not in that club yet. So that's number one. And number two, it's the love of the sport. Like we play a sport, entrepreneurship is a sport, and the way we keep track is money. Yeah. And, I was having this conversation the other day with one of my friends, actually. If you and I were 100-meter sprinters and, we just beat our personal best and we put it up on our Instagram story, everyone claps. They're like, oh yeah, you just hit your personal best. If you and I are entrepreneurs and we just had our first $1 million month and we put that on our Instagram, why are you showing off? Like, why are you gloating? It's like, well, no, I'm proud of what I've done. Like, I'm proud of my accomplishments. And this is a barometer for how much value am I providing, right? Like, how's the market responding to what I'm putting out there? Because that's what we do, right? We're in the game of business. Yeah. So for me, entrepreneurship is a sport. It's the most difficult sport on earth. There's more competition than any other sport out there. And it's a sport that's 24/7. I guess you could say that about some other stuff, but there's never a time you switch off. And it's a sport with infinite possibilities, and it's also a sport with the longest run rate, right? Because when we're 55, we're going to be playing at a much higher level. There's no one in traditional sports who plays at a higher level at 55 than they do at 35. So I like the sport, man.
Very well said. Very well said. And $1 million these days is not a lot of money. Even if you want a house and a car and like some savings, that's $1 million, especially with the prices now of everything. Like if you want a decent life, you need $1 million. People are so like they're so accustomed to getting a loan on everything. I see people getting a loan on furniture now, like a loan on like everything. Like, well, you don't own it. So like if you were to own everything you had, how much would it take? $1 million, easy, easy for like a nice, comfortable life. Because this is how I feel. I feel like now at the point that I'm at right now, as I'm filming this, I feel like anybody could get to this point. Do you feel the same way? Like it feels easy. Like if you were to take everything from us today, in 6 months, we would come a very long way.
I genuinely think 70% of becoming a millionaire is just stop. I mean, it's funny because obviously we're enjoying a glass of red wine here, but stop drinking, stop smoking pot. I don't care if you think it makes you creative, and get 9 hours of sleep a day. Like that's 90% of it. And you just do that for enough years and you find a business model that isn't ridiculously hard and actually you're not setting yourself up to fail. And I think, and for some people it might take 24 months. For some people it might take 36 months. For some people it might take 10 years to find success with what they're doing. But like, what's your other option?
Yeah. You have to.
100%.
You absolutely have to. And another thing I want to get into, we could probably talk for 10 hours. Yeah. There's an imaginary linear line right now that's getting every year. It's going higher and higher. And it's, if you don't want to be a slave forever, like if you want to be free, truly free, you need to break above this line. And it's getting harder and harder and harder every single year. And so as a man, you can't be a slave. Like you can't live in the little track home with your family. And if one thing happens, like government knocks on your door or you get in a car accident, like you need to be able to take care of your family as a man. I 100% believe this. And that line is getting harder and harder. So you have to do it, and you have to do it now, right now. And it's also easier than ever, because was this last 12 months your best year ever?
100%.
Same. So it's also easier than ever because of COVID. And now with crypto and everything, so much of commerce and finance is going peer to peer. And we're removing big companies. Big companies used to have 10,000 employees. $1 billion companies now have hundreds, right? There's $10 million companies with a couple of employees, like your agency or some of your other businesses. So it's easier now than ever, and you absolutely have to do it now, 100%.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.